Well, hello and welcome. It's a Monday, and that can mean only one thing. We are talking dogs, and more specifically, we are talking the Greyhound Racing Ireland Winter Racing Festival, which got underway on Friday night at Shelbourne Park, provided some cracking racing on Friday. But the main event was very much Saturday's action. And as always, we are joined by the exile dub, Tommy Lyons, down in his Yall base. And well, a man that actually made it to Dublin on Saturday night, Barry Drake, was in Shelbourne Park to witness the action firsthand. He spent his first hour just staring around the place like a deer caught in the headlights, just amazed by the beauty and the prowess of Shelbourne Park. And Barry, are you over the shock of all that is Shelbourne Park?
Yeah, just about, Ian. Certainly it was a fantastic night, and certainly great to be trackside and caught up with a lot of the winning connections, and always great catch up with them just after the race. I think you kind of get a fantastic interview at that stage because they're still on a high. So hopefully that content went down well. Certainly got a good reaction online, and thanks to Orla Strumble and Dawn Quinn for all the help. Two girls that are doing fantastic work, and sometimes I don't think they get the credit they deserve behind the scenes work, but fair play to them.
Well, there you are, Tommy. Barry is absolutely ensuring his place in the podcast in future episodes. Tommy, from afar, how did it look? Obviously, a great night's racing. Listen, there was a very, very sour note to proceedings, but we'll touch on that later on. But thankfully, New Win Taylor has he's due to be operated next couple of days, but he's very comfortable and all going well. We'll be talking about a similar story to Bastana in a week or two's time. But from afar, the racing obviously was of the highest quality.
Yeah, it was. It was good to be able to watch it too. You know, I had the RPG TV on for the night, and it was a great show. You know, it's effectively it was dedicated to the race to Shelbourne Park. It might as well have been. I thought it was terrific. Great just to be able to sit down and have a few hours there to just concentrate on one thing. And the quality of the racing from top to bottom, as you said, was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Barry, for you, was there a highlight of the night? Like, we'll go through the races one by one in a few minutes, but was there one highlight for you?
Yeah, look, as you said, there were so many good performances, but if I had to pinpoint one, it would be the performance of Ballymac Beanie, the Oaks champion. Obviously, a lot of pressure going on her and the likes of Declan Byrne and owners heading into that race on Saturday night. But I thought she put on another stunning display. She tracked lovely around the opening corner, brave too at the same time. So look, it's always great to see the champion back up that performance, and she certainly done the job in great style on Saturday night.
Yeah, she certainly did. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go from bottom to top, should I say. We'll start at the opening race. I was going to start with all the €2,500 races, but to be honest, some of the displays in some of the €1,750 races were every bit as stunning. Of course, we'll also get to the final of the IGOBF National Puppy Stake, which, there's plenty to talk about in that one. But the opening race of the evening, Rathcoole Fox, and this brought on higher significance because I was a winning nominator. I get my Talking Dogs gift set. I'll be walking around like a walking advertisement for all that is Talking Dogs. But Rathcoole Fox, the betting would suggest that he just had to avoid making mistakes, and as it happens, that's what he did. He got to the front. Joey, I said, pushed him all the way, but Rathcoole Fox, it was pretty straightforward for the Graham Holland trained star. One of three winners on the night for Graham, of course, who had very much mixed emotions on the evening, but Rathcoole Fox, a good winner. There's nothing more to say, really, lads, except he popped out and made most of the running. That was it.
Yeah, just had a little bit of a battle to get to the bend, just to get that length clear at the bend. But once he did, I mean, he was available at even money, I think, on the machine just before the off. I think he was close enough to even money. If you took that, you were never in much danger. Once he got to the front, it was all over. In theory, if it had been a normal year, it would have been a great way for punters to start because he looked a good thing and he duly proved so.
Yeah, Joey, I said, ran a big race in second for Martin Lanny and for Stephen Townsley. He's a nice plucky type, Barry. A lot to like about him.
Yeah, definitely, because he certainly put it up to the winner the whole way. Very little in it for most of the journey, but Rathcoole Fox obviously got punters off to a great start, and it was a great start to the night for trainer Graham Holland. Obviously, he's a very fast greyhound, and it was no surprise to see him get the job done.
Yeah, officially returned 8th to 13, 29.54, always a good run, especially in the very, very cold conditions. The second race on the card, well, this was a good race on paper. We thought it was going to produce a nice winner. Perhaps Ballymac Art looked the most likely winner. She was an 11-8 favourite, but we saw Deadly Samurai take a real step forward here in his career. This was, it was pretty. He was pretty emphatic in his previous two starts, and where he showed great early speed to lead some proper greyhounds, including Butsy's Bengal and Ballymac Ariel in his last start. But On this occasion, it was just electric. He absolutely rocketed to the bend off a flying start. And this son of Ballymac Vic and Lemon Lucy clearly has a big future for Gary Hannon and Carl Ramsbottom. Carl's a lovely fella. Barry, you of course spoke to him a few weeks back, and he's hard not to like. He's just one of those great characters. He's the sort of fella, any night, any occasion, if it was allowed, he'd be there, have a drink at the end of the night and have a bit of crack. And he loves the sport. But Gary Hannon is a man that's also putting a lot of money into the game. And like Carl, a real gentleman, good crack, good sport, and loves his greyhounds. And I'm delighted they have a dog of Deadly Samurai's quality to look forward to in 2021. Something serious about this dog, Barry.
Yeah, definitely. Look, he won the unrace stake below in Kilkenny, clocked in 28.82. In the final. And yeah, as you said, look, Carl Ramsbottom, it's a pleasure to speak with him. We all love speaking to these people that will give you plenty of talking, and Carl certainly fits that bill. And, like he bolted from traps. I thought it was a wonderful display, and, a popular winner for sure. And it rounded off a great night for Connections, because they also took the big race down in Cork, the final of the Dennis Linehan on race day, Dennis Linehan Solicitors on race day, and Deadly Destroyer putting on a similar performance. He bolted from traps as well to win, and he's certainly a nice prospect as well for Connections. So they have a lot to look forward to for next year.
Yeah, indeed. Tommy, our clock man, as we describe him, he loves to want to go from the front. I'd say when he clocks this fella, he'll be going, oh wow, that was tasty. 1580 odd to the third bend. Like, that's really racing. This is a pup with a bright future.
Yeah, when I saw this the other night, I thought that maybe this could be a dog for the Laurels next year. If he can break like that, he's gone from 2:13 to 2:02 to 2 seconds dead in the early sections. He's only had the few runs around Shelbourne Park because he, as Barry said, he started off at Kilkenny. So he's a dog with a I'd say it's safe to say that he's going to improve a nice bit. 28.15 already. It's a huge run. I think he's a perfect type for a Laurels. If depends what happens next year. Maybe he'll develop and he might stay a bit stronger or whatever. But it looks a 5.25 dog to me. Might even be a dog that be capable of dropping back to a sprint, maybe 400 yards. He had this in the bag, as you said in your commentary. You could tell from your commentary. I've got 30 seconds to fill here, or 28 seconds to fill here, because this dog is all over.
Sorry, I was boring you, Tommy.
yeah. I switched over in Neighbours or something like that. Pierre, it
hasn't been the same since Flick left. All right, go on.
Pierre ran a cracking race, I thought, to finish second. Another nice dog, but Deadly Samurai is all about early pace. So, as I said, I think he's a Laurels dog for next year, and he could be a dog that might even drop to 400 yards if he's shown that sort of early pace. You never know; he could be an Irish Sprint Cup dog as well.
Yeah, 2 points. Ballymac did miss the kick slightly. She was up 2 pounds on the evening. Did miss the kick, and once she doesn't lead well, I'm afraid she's not going to be picking up the likes of a Deadly Samurai. And as we said last week about Pirno, 28.76 in his trial. We said it was back a bit. He does 28.43 the other night, and didn't quite get racing early, but yeah, showed lots of promise. And I can see where Tommy O'Donovan is coming. He said there's lots to come from this dog, and I dare say we'll see more from him in the future, perhaps over 550 yards. We move on to the Talking Dogs on Thursday with Barry Drake Open 850. Barry, we sort of glossed over this race last week. We just rushed through it, said Sporting Pat and Mairead's Pearl. They just didn't quite perform. Mairead's Pearl, perhaps age is catching up on him. He did stay on strongly at the end, but didn't show any early dash. Sporting Pat was disappointing. I thought she was probably primed for this race. Like, she's only December 17. I thought she'd nearly be at the peak of her powers. Maybe she did need the run. She's been off for the guts of a month, but in Dana Point, we found a very, very, very talented young stare. This was only its 9th career start. She's only October 18. She had very limited form over 6 bends, but on this occasion, she looked the real deal. 47.46 in those conditions. She ran away from her rivals from the 5th bend home. Very exciting. And I have another point to add in a moment, but there was a lot to like about this Dana Point, and the connections got very, very animated on the stands, Barry.
Yeah, they sure did. And look, it was a fantastic performance. She, as we said, she had been well beaten in previous outings over the 750-yard trip. But I suppose when you look back on her form, she had clocked 32 around Galway for 5.75 there early on in her career. So clearly a very talented sort, and caught up with Ali Curtin after the race, and he said it was like winning an All-Ireland final. So that was one of the quotes of the night for me, and it just sums up her great sport, and delighted for them, because it certainly meant a lot. So that's what I love to see.
Yeah, the 850, Tommy, wasn't actually initially in the night of, or in the Winter Racing Festival, but it got put back in because there was a little bit of demand. You can see one or two of these, are clearly ones for the future, like the Reds of Regier will come on first. Dana Point is certainly one for the future. Unfortunately, there aren't an awful lot of opportunities for this type of dog in Ireland, but if there were, Dana Point is one that could really, really grasp it, because she looked every inch a stayer, but a stayer with a bit of class. Like, she wasn't outpaced early. She had plenty of speed.
No, I tell you, and it's funny, you were talking about our clock man a while ago. He actually gave this a real chance. He said that he thought that at big prices, it's just what he sent down a message early in the day and just saying that thought that if Dana Point was too big a price, and it was in the 30s on Betfair, I think, shortly before the off, and that it was worth taking maybe a chance on it in case the top two missed it or something happened. Murray's Pearl and supporting Pat, as you said, they just never really got into it that well. You know what I mean? The race is kind of over here, even though it's funny to say that about an 850. But when I saw Dana Point turning as close as she did, you're thinking it's going to take a fair one to come from behind that as whether she can pick up the one in front. So yeah, it was a nice performance. And as you say, there isn't a program in Ireland that sustains those dogs from one end of the year to the other. That's the problem with them. There's a big gap before you get those good staying competitions. So there's probably more value for a greyhound like that in the UK. But yeah, a nice winner. And I say it was 18-1, but it wasn't a total surprise to everybody.
Yeah, I was going. That's you just made that point. It'll be interesting to see if they're running the Shelbourne Marathon over 1,025 yards. She is a bit young, but at the same time, she didn't seem to be stopping as they even reached the escape. Funny enough, 18-1. I thought Shane McGowan would have been back in this one. It's not too often you see 18-1 return, but as in the fairy tale in New York, it came in at 18-1. Right, we'll move on to the fourth race in your card. This was the sprint, and this was over pretty early. Brody's Magic trapped on terms. That was the key. Seven Heads Rock really pushed him into the bend, but once he got across the opening corner, that was it. Seven Heads Rock, though, didn't make him run into that opening corner, and he ran well enough to suggest that he could have a big future as a sprinter, as well as perhaps a 525-yard greyhound. But Brody's Magic was the one to beat, and off the start, he was always going to take some stopping, Tommy.
Yeah, there was plenty of money for Seven Heads Rock. He went off 13-8, which I thought was quite short. He ran a superb race because, as you say, he pushed Brody's Magic into the first bend and actually was forced to check because Brody's Magic was so strong on the bend and so determined to get around it. He forced Seven Heads Rock to check. So I think Seven Heads Rock did particularly well to even finish second after that, because you lose momentum at that class, you're probably in a lot of trouble. Of course, I was caught between wanting John O'Regan to win with Seven Heads Rock, but we know from these podcasts in the last few months that Brody's Magic is one of my favourite greyhounds in training. He's a sensationally fast dog, doesn't always get the look he deserves, but he made his own look Saturday night. I think that was key. He really drove that bend. It's $2.5 grand pot. He's been in a lot of finals. He hasn't had an awful lot of luck in them, so I was just delighted to see him pick up a nice few quid for David Murray.
Yeah, the beauty of sprinters is they can have slightly prolonged careers. So he's only November 17th. He's just gone 3 years of age. We definitely have a full year to look forward to him next year. Barry, I've no doubt that you were wearing your Seven Heads Rock hat from the infield, or from where you're watching it. Into the bend, though, you just got the feeling Brody's Magic was going to do exactly what he did, just drive the corner, cut him off, because we know how he likes the fence.
Yeah, definitely. I think yourself and Tommy have summed it up well there. He was a fantastic greyhound below in Curraheen Park. Unlucky not to win that large final, Brody's Magic. So it was very nice to see him get his night on Saturday night. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come from David Murray's runner. And, be looking forward to seeing him back in action again.
Yep, we said that Graham Holland had 3 winners in the night. Well, Liam Dowling had 3 winners in the night also, and the BarkingBuzz.ie Open Syndicate 550. By restricting it to syndicate-owned greyhounds, you think you maybe might, you're sort of confining it to a certain amount of quality, but this was a quality contest. But in the end, there was a really quality winner in Great Name That. This fellow stood up slightly in the opening corner, he's slightly at the third bend. We've seen him encounter plenty of traffic in recent starts. That hasn't always been in his makeup, so perhaps this was a bit of a confidence builder. He'd won on the Friday night in Tralee. He may not stand up as much in the future, and I hope he gets back to his fluent best soon, because he did 29.33 after what he did on the first and third bends. That's astounding. This fellow has got better and better and better. He has an engine that could be scarcely matched in Irish greyhound racing. This fellow could be anything in 2021. Just needs to iron out those couple of tweaks. Tommy.
Yeah, look, Dean, what you want from him next year, if you're a punter and if you're looking at Easter Cups or you're looking at derbies or whatever, you want to see that little bit of consistency. You want to see him drive on at the bend. He has the talent. You were saying it in your commentary the other night that look, he's done 33. What would he have done if he hadn't stood up on the bends? He wasn't horrifically bad on the bends. Let's be honest. He wasn't desperately bad. I thought he was.
Perhaps cost him 2 lengths though. That's 29.20 in cold conditions. Like, it was a hell of a run.
No, it was a hell of a run. It was a huge run. I'm not saying a couple lengths maybe is what it cost him, but it was just nice to see it. He obviously got a confidence booster from 3 the previous night, and so he not only did he produce it twice in a row, he did it in 24 hours. So it's a nice performance. I'm sure Liam Dowell will be delighted with him now. It's put him away maybe and get him all set for. Oh, he can't put him away, of course, with the Kingdom Derby on, but get him set for next year anyway. He could be a Derby dog. He has the talent. He definitely has the talent. Oftentimes you're looking at Derby going, this lad could improve a bit and become a Derby dog. This fella doesn't have to improve. He just has to. He just, as you said, straighten out his game a little bit, and he'll be right there.
Yeah, Barry, very taking display, of course, owned by the Very Quiet Syndicate, which consists of Des Grace, and nobody would begrudge him. I think we all sort of fell in love with Des Grace as a man earlier in the year, the way he handled Pastana, even in the build-up to the final and whatnot. He just came across as such a lovely character, a great man, and himself and his fellow members in the Very Quiet Syndicate have a greyhound to look forward to in 2021.
Yeah, definitely. I watched this race actually from the infield, and it was heart in your mouth stuff at the bends from where I was watching, and the pace he showed down the back straight was unbelievable, really. The only slight concern I'd have going forward is seeing him back in action in Tralee over 5.25. Tralee is a tight enough track down there, and I wouldn't like to see him getting thrown around the place. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll get on there and the next couple of rounds in the Kingdom Derby. So look, he's a greyhound with fantastic ability, and he's broken 28 seconds around Shelbourne Park. So I think that sums up the animal that he is.
Yeah, I'd never worry about a Liam Dowling Crane greyhound going around Tralee. In fairness, that's where he did his schooling. He learned his trade. Great name, that. A great dog. Miss Joss, in a normal year, you'd have to put her up there in the top 3 or 4 bitches in the country. But just, we're in a freak year. Like, she's still a very, very talented lady, but she's going to be taking on a crop of bitches next year that are like no other. We'll get onto that in a little bit later. On to the 6th race, and, well, we're going to get onto it straight away. This is the Greyhound Racing Ireland Bitch 525. Like you, Barry, I was so taken by Ballymacbeanie. I think you can tell from my commentary. I think you can tell from the way I speak about her in the last few weeks that she really has a special place in my heart. I think she's very, very special indeed. On this occasion, Right So Bell ran an absolute blinder into the opening corner to lead up these pitches. Is a sensational run from Right So Bell. I know she's had 29 starts, but it just seems that she's really clicked into gear these last few weeks, running through the Oaks and now in this company running such a big race in defeat. And of course, Droopy's Curio back in third, again showing big pace, but just missed the kick, never really got involved. Grangeview West was the one that caused Ballymacbeanie the concern into the opening corner because Right So Bell was staying wide. But Ballymacbeanie drove that bend, she took the bump and found herself in front. She is a ringer for her half-brother Pastana, in a sense where she has paced everywhere, but she also has buckets and buckets of determination. There's so much to like about this one, Tommy.
Yeah, I was looking to take her on in this race because she'd been so good in the Oaks, and I thought it might have taken a bit out of her. In fairness to her, she's entitled to a break now, but like I thought that maybe there might be a bit more of a challenge to her early. She was good enough to fend off a challenge from Grangeview West. Right So Bell was there and ran a cracking race, as you said. But it was a bit like the Oaks final when she got in front. Even though they tried to challenge her hard, she just keeps finding plenty. She's just absolutely right out the very top drawer. It's what you were alluding to a minute ago, Ian, about the quality of the bitches in the country at the moment. It's from the young bitches right up to the seasoned bitches. They're absolutely phenomenal. They really are. I was disappointed with Droopy's Curio, but I'm disappointed in the sense that I thought she might really put it up to Ballymacbeanie this time. But not disappointed for the future in the sense that, just forgive it. There was a 218 or something, 217, 218 section, just missed it completely, left herself with loads to do. You can see she was looking and seeing where can I go, what can I do, never really found a place to really, she never found an opportunity to get into full stride to show exactly what she's capable of. She did actually quite well to finish third, to be fair to her. I still think she's a star for next year, but Ballymacbeanie is going to be the one to have to beat because she does everything right. She breaks, she has middle pace, She seems to sense that there's a challenge coming, and she finds more. So there's probably just keeping a little bit in the locker for herself. She's a brilliant, brilliant bitch.
Pat and Alan Dobbs and Kira Vreeker, Barry, they have a star here. I know you spoke to Pat, and he's an excited man. He's looking forward to watching his lady in the future, and I think we all are.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll congratulate Pat as well. I know he had a big success over the last couple of days out in Dubai. I was speaking to Declan Byrne on Saturday night, and I think there was a 3 million prize fund in that race. So well done to Pat. I'm sure he'll put in to this. And look, Declan confirmed yesterday that she'll have a nice little break now. So hopefully we'll see her back in next year. But I'm delighted they made the decision to run her on Saturday night, because she was one of the stars for me.
Declan Byrne is he's a very, very talented trainer, but perhaps doesn't always have the kennel strength to get the plaudits. But this man can do a greyhound. She's in the right hands.
Oh, exactly. You put it fantastically well there, Ian. Like, we're always highlighting, the trainers here in Ireland that are getting big success. But like we always say, there's so many talented trainers around the country, and Declan is definitely one of them, and very important too that they can get the biggest success, because it's just great for the game. And another terrific display on Saturday night. So well done to Declan. He's done a fantastic job with her.
Yeah, he sure is. We'll move on. The Join the Chat hashtag Winter Racing Festival Open 750. And this, from a racing point of view, it was not a strange race. It was a competitive race. We saw what happened. Ballymac Wisdom set the pace. Mina Maverick came to challenge. They got entangled. Ripley Ladd arrived. But Reds are Ardford. There's no keeping this dog down. He won on this night last year. He won the Night of Star 750. This year he's winning the Winter Racing Festival 750. He's approaching 4 years of age. It was his 52nd career start. There's just so much to like about him. He's further cementing his position as one of the great stayers of modern times, and indeed all times. He was the first Irish winner of the UK St. Leger. He's the track record holder at Shelbourne Park. And while he may not be quite at his brilliant best, he's still amongst the very best dogs in training in Ireland, England, over 6 pens. Barry, it was a joy to be on hand to see him in action, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just wish he could run every Saturday night at Shelbourne, because I really enjoy our commentaries with him. I think you really go all out when Reds are out first, hits the front. And I'm not sure if it's his last race. I know Brendan did touch on that on Saturday night. Maybe they haven't made the official decision yet, but he did say it could be his last race, so we'll wait for clarification on that. But look, it was great to see him do the business once again on Saturday night.
Yeah, Tommy, if it is his last race, like, he certainly owes them. This has been a great greyhound for them.
What a way to go out if it was. I mean, we could focus on the race itself and say that he kind of fell into his lap a little bit between the last 2 lanes, but I think that would be a bit unfair, because he was building up to a challenge anyway.
He was motoring at that point. Yeah,
exactly. I was watching, as I said, I was watching on RPG TV. I think JK actually summed it up perfectly. He was not, like I said, like I thought, exactly as he was saying on Saturday night, that Ballymac Wisdom was in a perfect position going down the back for the final time, was perfectly positioned to win the race, and just, it was probably slightly disappointed they couldn't hold Mina Maverick up, let it up her inside down to the third bend. They bumped, and in fairness, they did bump 3 or 4 times, just try both battling to get the best position around the bend, and it kind of left an opportunity for Reds Ardford. But as I said, I'd rather focus on the fact that Reds Ardford was building up a head of steam at that stage anyway, and may well have got there. He was absolutely motoring, and because once there was a bit of trouble, he was going to come clear as he did. And you know what? Regardless, 41.73 is a pretty good time.
Yeah, certainly in the cold conditions. I said about the 47.46 and the 8.50 earlier on in the evening. They were big runs, because, like, it's hard to tell from home, but it was bitter. It really was bitter. Poor old Barry's still thawing out. Reds Radford, 18 wins and 52 starts. But when you actually go through his CV, it just doesn't quite tell it all. It was more the manoeuvre. He stepped right of the two, battling up the inside, came between them and Ripley Ladd, and just charged up that home straight in the manner that he always does. He's just a dog that really found his way over 750 yards. And thankfully they did step him up when they did. At the time, there was a few raised eyebrows, because he seemed to have so much an offer for 4 bends, but it was the wisest decision they ever made. Of course, Brendan, a very talented man with the stayer. We've known that over the years. Also pretty talented with a 4-bender, but in a stayer, he found Reds Ardford, and I think they were a perfect combination for each other. And we move on. the IGOBF National Puppy Stakes, €12,500 to the winner. You know, at the outset, if you'd asked me to name the winner, I would have said Ballymac Ariel. She'd only had one start at that point, but here we are. She's after her 4th career outing. She didn't do it right. Don't get me wrong. She missed the kick, and you know she showed devastating pace. The race was perhaps thrown to her a bit on the opening corner, and you can say from a form point of view, that if they met again next week in similar traps, take out Explosive Boy, you'd probably back Billy's Diva to beat her. But I think that's too black and white. It's too simple. You know, Ballymac Ariel was having her 4th career start. Her manoeuvre on the opening bend was nothing short of stunning. She stepped around them like a seasoned campaigner, and she quickly put the race to bed in the style of one that is decisive in her actions. I love that about her. I think there's so much to come from her. Barry, Tommy, it's hard not to be impressed by the winner. It's hard not to be impressed by the runner-up. And indeed, the 3rd dog, Kalara Getaway, is one to keep an eye on in the future too. Also, Explosive Boy. He played his part in this final. I suggested last week in the preview he would. He definitely favours the inside. And of course, he had schooled beside Billy's Diva. They grew up together. So it was no surprise to see them clashing in the opening yards. But Tommy, Ballymac Ariel, what can be said that hasn't?
Yeah, there's 2 things I really loved about the performance. We know what happened the first bend. The fact that the Explosive Boy was slightly in front, Billy's Diva was doing her best to get through along the inside, and they bumped a couple of times. 2 things I really took out of Ballymac Ariel's run the other night. Firstly, when she broke, she got a couple of bumps. Now, they weren't heavy bumps or whatever, but I loved the turn of pace she showed to go into 3rd place, going toward the bend. It said to me that, you know what, she's going to improve her traffic for next year. She's going to be a better breaker than she is at the moment. And the second thing is what you said. The way she just sidestepped them around the first bend was just sensational. How she saw the trouble that happened in front of her, how she just quickened around it. It was brilliant to watch. If you made a point there that if they're in the same boxes next week, you back Billy's Diva. That if you took Explosive Boy out,
I said there'd be an argument. I wouldn't back Billy's Diva. I'm backing Ballymac Ariel.
You are. If you put them into a match race, right, and put them in those boxes, you'll have a cracking race, because Billy's Diva is another one of those bitches that's going to add to the quality of bitches for next year. It's just ridiculous. It really, really is. The Oaks will be harder to win than the Derby next year. That's the way it looks at the moment. They are that good. They really are. But I think Ballymac Ariel is going to be. I hope she gets 550. I really hope she gets 550 yards. I'm a little bit not certain about it at the moment. But if she does, I think she's a Derby dog. We haven't seen too many bitches win the Derby over the years. There have been a few, and she could be one. She's going to smash in. I firmly believe she's going to break the track record next year for 525.
Well, I have no doubt she'll stay 550. Certainly, at the important time of the year, given the top of the ground, she'll have a season under her at that stage. You'd imagine she'll have strengthened up. Right. Top of the ground, they keep rolling. As I said about the 575, when top grade, they just keep rolling to the line. Ballymac Ariel, I told you she'd win. You're Billy's Diva. I told you what had happened. I didn't think Ballymac Ariel would step out like she did, but as Tommy said, she showed that early dash into the corner. She's right on their heels at the opening bend. She steps around them like a seasoned pro and goes on to win it. She's racy, which is something you can't always say about a dog or a puppy at such a young age after just 3 career starts. She's racy. She gets into it. She knows what the game is about. The maneuver around the opening 2 bends was nothing if not emphatic. I think you can tell by my commentary off the second bend that I was impressed.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, look, you've been talking about her now for quite some time, but yeah, she's so powerful. She seems to have it all, and when she does brush up in her trapping, as Tommy pointed out there, I'm sure we'll see far more special things. The top is another incredible start. She's probably 28 10 bitch every night from trap number 1. Obviously, it just didn't go her way on Saturday night, but a lot to look forward to. The one thing I was surprised with was the industry SPs. I was so cold in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. It must be the first night I ever went to a track without having a bet. I couldn't even look at the bet and I was so cold. But that was a bit of a surprise to see 13-8 and 8-11.
Yeah, Tommy said last week when you initially gave him the first sort of set of prices in 10-11 Ballymac Ariel, 11-8, that Tommy would favour Ballymac Ariel. Well, while I was sitting up in the commentary box, Robert Catterson appeared up beside me, and he I just took a look at the machine, and she was 2.6, so she was over 6-4. I had a few quid on. She went to 2.8. I said, I have to go again. And when
Yeah.
she went 3:05, I said, well, I have to have another couple of quid on her. So maybe my my call off the second bend was also strengthened by the fact that I'd got in there 3 times Ballymac Aerial. I was stunned by the prices. Like, don't get me wrong, Billy's Diva is a sensational performer. Just the presence of Explosive Boy was always going to be a massive, massive concern for her. But yeah, Ballymac Aerial is a serious runner. But have no fear. We'll be seeing plenty more of all these runners next year. They're a very, very, very talented group. Which, you know, when you consider it, the competition only started with 24 dogs, and we've got probably 4 in the final that are capable of anything next year. On now to the Irish Retired Greyhound Trust Open Bitch 550. And again, we're talking about more star females. And this time it was one of the more established runners, Scooby Princess, who produced a massive run. She's huge on the back and she stays strongly. We know that. But she showed great track craft. She showed great determination. Jennifer O'Donnell, we've alluded to it before, you know, she was bred to be a special trainer, and by God, she can train one. This Scooby Princess is extremely fast, extremely powerful, and it was a big run from her. Slippery Diva ran a massive race in defeat for Larry Dunn. She's a well-bred sort. She'll improve again. Like, she is June 18, but she's only had the 13 career starts now. Coulivanny Chick just missed the kick. She showed plenty of pace to get involved, but we know when she's around dogs, she does tend to stay that little bit wide, and she has a little flat spot here and there. As it was, she's only on their heels back in third, but no, this was about Scooby Princess. A very impressive performance, Tommy.
Yeah, as you said, it was a great performance by Jennifer O'Donnell, because she had to produce her absolutely perfect. Because I think from your commentary, you were even a little bit surprised that Scooby Princess got there, because Slippery Diva looked to be in control nearly the entire way, and all of a sudden Scooby Princess produced this huge effort at the end. It was great to watch. She's won 9 times now, 29.75 for the 550. Yet more proof of the quality of bitches in the country. It was a cracking performance. You'd be delighted for Jennifer O'Donnell, to be fair to her.
Yeah, you would. She has a proper one here, Scooby Princess, and you know, she's April 18. She'll be around for an Oaks again in a few months' time. Although the 550 probably is her trip. You know what I mean? And she did run well in the Derby this year. She went a few rounds, and you know, who's to say she won't pick up a pot somewhere along the line? Barry, you were impressed by Scooby Princess. I know you're one of her biggest fans. You've seen her down your way, and she's always one that's been in your notebook.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for her, and she done me a good favour in the Irish Derby when she won around this year. As you said, look, she won the Shelley Fennelly Memorial 550 down in Cork, winning all 3 rounds, and she had the likes of Ballymac Wisdom and Witches Ethiopia and Ballymac Azin behind her in the final. So she's clearly a very, very smart sort, and I was delighted she got the job done on Saturday night. She's a real powerhouse there, close home in the latter stages of the race. So yeah, a mighty performance from Scooby Princess.
Yeah, very, very impressive. The 525 cut up somewhat. The Irish Daily Star Talking Dogs every weekend open 525. We lost 2 classic winners, Grangeview 10 and Skywalker Barry. Hopefully nothing too serious. Their places were taken by All About Ted, and the other was the reserve of Massachusetts, the strong runner. We spoke of Feudal Spirit last week. I said that he was the key to the race, what he does at boxes. I didn't expect him to do at boxes what he did. He absolutely rocketed it out. This race was over from half a stride in, and yet he wins only a length. A hugely eye-catching run in second spot by All About Ted. Young Michael Cronin spoke very, very well on Racing Post Television. He's a lad with a very bright future in his sport. He's such a sensible lad. If he has any more sense, he'd probably do something in college and just stay away from the dogs, but we won't say that. He's going to always have a part to play in greyhound racing, because you can tell by him. He speaks so well about it. He loves the sport. And by God, everything he said about All About Ted could be right, because Sonny Kinloch he expects him to improve next year, and he showed plenty of pace. But this was about Feudal Spirit. Graham Holland, another winner for him, and Larry O'Rourke, one of the great owners in the sport, a man that continues to produce, continues to buy good produce, good greyhounds, and Feudal Spirit, a good winner for Larry, and we're delighted for him, because he deserves a big winner on a night like this. And Feudal Spirit, Tommy, it was pretty straightforward. There's not much more you can say about it, but flashed out, made every inch of the running. He does 28.26. He could do no more.
No, and you say great for Larry O'Rourke as an owner. He puts a huge amount into the sport in Ireland, has done for many years. It was just straightforward. He was odds on with the two non-winners. He was backed into odds on, and deservedly so. And he showed why within a couple of yards. I mean, if you weren't taken by the performance of All About Ted, I'm afraid you weren't watching the racing, because there's the dog with very little racing done. I think he was a semi-finalist in the puppy stake, wasn't he? He was actually desperately unlucky because of the draw he had that night. He showed huge pace, and as you said about the young Cronin, I think he's like felt like a 40-year-old. He speaks like a 40-year-old. He talks far too much. He talks more sense than you do, Ian. And I'll tell you, not that we're setting the bar too high with that.
There's plenty to do that, Tommy. There's plenty to do that.
Yeah, it's not setting the bar very high, but in fairness to them, I think they've got a pretty special talent in all about Ted. He has a lot more early pace than he showed, but even at the best break he's produced so far, he wouldn't have been able to live with Feudal Spirit. It just flew the box, and that was all. As you say, he might only have won a length, but in fairness, he did a lot of work early. He put the race to bed long before halfway.
Yeah, Feudal Spirit, son of Droopy's Jet and Clara Share. We've seen plenty of the Clara breed performing this year. We saw Clara get away running well in the National Puppy Stake. Clara Share has been a good brood bitch, and Feudal Spirit, a very, very good winner. All about Ted. He's out of Enable. She was hugely fast, a little bit frustrating, but my God, she could run, and she has passed on that gene to her progeny, it seems. And all about Ted. I think we'll be hearing more of him in the future. Barry, you were impressed by the winner, I'm sure, and of course the runner-up.
Yeah, definitely. The winner, I was surprised with the pace, the second shown during the race, because I thought the winner, when he had bolted from traps like that, was going to win impressively. And then I was looking at my race card and I was saying, who is this runner up? Because I thought that was a remarkable performance in defeat. But look, take nothing away from the winner, done everything right. Fabulous performance, 28-26. And I know you were just touching on Mikey Cronin there. We've got some great young people in our great sport. Obviously, I was kennel side Saturday night, so I was speaking to a lot of people. Spoke with Mikey Cronin for the first time, and a lovely young fella, and certainly a young fella to watch going forward. And then you have the likes of Rachel Holland, who was such a big part of Graham and Nicky's operation there, the family. And you know, just watching everything kennel side on Saturday night, I think you just really see what's going on. And, you know, Emma Buckley as well, I spoke to her after her success with Glengar Bale. So, look, it's great to see all these young people coming through in our sport.
Yes, indeed. Well, the next race is the one we have to speak about more so the necessity than anything else. Glengar Bale was the winner. It was a strange race. You know, New Inn Taylor slightly missed the kick, showed devastating speed into the bend. Bichu Cognac and Ballymac Wild were in second and third on the inside, but New Inn Taylor pulled up injured on the opening corner. Bichu Cognac got distracted. Catch Me Flying got distracted off the second bend. All of a sudden, Glengar Bale, who had missed the kick, had improved his position, lost his position, was last off the second bend, shoots up the inside, is left in front, and goes on to win in 30:01. Jack Buckley, Emma Buckley, and Pat Buckley, they think the world of Glengar Bale. He's a hugely talented performer. We didn't see him at his best. He deserves to win a big one already at this early stage in his life. He'll have big days in the future, but I don't think any of them would have wanted to win in these circumstances. And I think anybody watching felt like they were punched in the stomach. New Inn Taylor, a brilliant Derby winner, having his 19th career start, on his way to a 17th career success. You know, that's an incredible strike rate. We will miss him. He was a hell of a greyhound, but thankfully he is on the mend, and hopefully he'll make it a full enough recovery. He'll have a good quality of life, and he should have a long, healthy retirement and perhaps a very, very good stud career to look forward to. Barry, on the night, I'd say it was a sickening blow from where you were.
Yeah, heartbreaking stuff. Surrounded by the Graham Holland kennel after the race there, and they were obviously very distressed after what happened, and the likes of Sherry Ann O'Connell as well, who was so nervous before the race. It was tough to watch, but look, as you said, look, the reports have been great since, and look, hopefully he'll make a full recovery, because he has been a remarkable greyhound over the last year. So what he has achieved on the track is unbelievable, and might be a while before we'll see the likes of him again. And you know, like it was tough to watch.
Yeah, Tommy, it was on this day a year ago he won the equivalent of the National Puppy Stake, the O'Neill's Dog Food Open Stake at Shelbourne Park. He was such an incredible young talent. He won his first 12 career starts, his first defeat coming in the opening round of the Derby, but we know how that went after that. A special greyhound. It's a terrible shame to end like this, but at the same time, he goes out on the top. He goes out at the very peak of his career, and we'll remember him for being a champion, and hopefully we'll see him produce a few champions on the track in the future.
Yeah, look, thankfully it was a career ending and not a life ending. You know, injury. That's the important thing. He's still there. He will have an influence, I'm sure, on the track in the future. He was absolutely fantastic. He was going to be running an absolutely phenomenal race. Now, he hadn't run in a while, but the pace he showed into the bend was incredible. He was leaving proper dogs standing at that stage. He really was. When I saw him going up, I was thinking, geez, what's this clock going to be? Considering Great Name Dad done 29:33, was he going to go close to that? He probably was. It was a crying shame. It really was. It's awful thing to see. But thanks be to God that they, the soundings from the Kennel since have been fairly positive. So hopefully that will be the case over the next few days. He'll improve rapidly. Glengar Bale was a good winner in the sense that he's a very good dog, and he's a dog that could develop into a Derby dog. It's kind of funny to say that since he was in the Derby in England, he was in the Derby in Ireland. He went to the latter stages of both. I think I said last week that he was slightly disappointed. I think that was probably maybe a bit unfair, but in the sense that he's produced some performances that have been absolutely right out of the top drawer. And if he could do that a little bit more consistently, he could win a Derby next year. He could develop into that sort of dog. I suspect it's going to be really, really hot again next year in terms of the overall quality. So, we talked about Great Name Dad having to do the same thing. They'll have to be at the peak of their powers and be able to produce, week in, week out, because that's the type of standard of dog we have at the moment. But look, it's probably best to move on from the race. Glengar Bale, well done to the Buckleys on that, and he's a really good dog to look forward to. But thankfully, that new Taylor is, there's positive soundings since Saturday.
Absolutely. A couple of points there just before we leave this race. We're in danger of doing what horse racing are doing, and everything focuses towards a Cheltenham. In terms of, we speak about Derby. Like the likes of a Glengar Bale, he's going to be bang there in the likes of an Easter Cup if he takes his chance. The Easter Cup starts in 3.5 months' time. You know what I mean? Like these are the dogs. We'll be seeing these dogs sooner rather than later, and it'd be great to see him winning something like the Easter Cup, and hopefully that could bring him on. But another point, I caught up with Graham and Nicky after racing. They were still clearly numb. Sherry-Ann O'Donnell was there. She was very much in the same scenario. How was Simon Taylor feeling at home? I know Sherry-Ann rang him, couldn't get through. She rang his partner, and she said, "Listen, he's after going upstairs. I'm just going to leave him be." He was obviously shook, Simon. He loves his greyhounds, and he certainly loves New Win Taylor, and who wouldn't? But Rachel Holland, I arrived over, and she was lying beside the dog in the van. She stayed with the dog for the 20-25 minutes I was there. She never took her hand off him. She just stroked him. He was so comfortable laying back. It was very well strapped up. He was in a cast at that point. They were in no doubt that the dog would get the very best veterinary care. We've since found out that he's gone down to Shane Gearan. Rachel Holland stayed with the dog all night, which is remarkable. Like she's not a child anymore, but she's still so young, but the care she showed towards this dog was unbelievable. And another point I just want to bring up is that we went through this 2 months ago with Pastana. I rang Graham Holland on the Monday morning after winning the Derby, and his first 15 lines were about Pastana and Owen McKenna. And I think for this to happen to him 2 months on, he said at the time, he says, "We know this can happen." It's awful to think, but I just like to point out that everybody should have their sympathies with the Hollands and the Simon Taylors of this world, because they know how it felt for other people in the past, and they're going through it themselves at this point. And I'd like to say that I think the dog's in the right hands. I think they'll do everything in their power to get him back right as rain. Obviously, he'll never run again, but I promise you one thing: if he gets the chance at stud, he'll be. He's a very, very well-bred individual, and I've no doubt he'll throw a champion or two. We'll move on, because we have another champion to talk about, Lenson Bocco. I put it to you, gentlemen, that Lenson Bocco was the worst affected greyhound by the pandemic. This was a dog that was on top of the greyhound world at the back end of last year. He was due to come back for the likes of the Easter Cup, missed the Easter Cup, but was ready to go to England. He was all set. All of a sudden, he's sitting on his, perhaps not sitting on his box for 3 months, but not getting the racing. He comes back, and he's not quite the sharpest greyhound, as sharp a greyhound as he was the previous year, trying to find his way, but just luck was against him. I was told in advance of the race that it was going to be his last race by Graham Box, his owner. I was delighted myself to see him pop out the other night and make it all the way from the front. Really got the 575-yard trip. He's probably a bit stronger than he was in the past, but great to see a champion like Lenson Bocco signing off on a winning note, because he it's easy to forget that this was an absolutely superstar winning Derby winner last year. This was a sensational Derby winner in 2019, and great to see him signing off on a winning note, Tommy.
Yeah, it was, because and you know what, maybe what the best thing about it was that it needed something a bit special as well. It wasn't just a kind of a token race where he was thrown in to have a nice little bye and beat 5 dogs that he beat with 2 legs tied up because he used it as a sort of classy dog. Ballymac Cooper really put it up to him early, and there was a little tiny bit of a bump on the bend and the whole lot. But Lenson Baco was in front, and as you said, I wasn't sure about the trip. Graham Holland clearly knows more than I do about the dog. But he strode out every bit of the way to the line. He was deeply impressive. This was a terrific run. It's kind of a shame that he's retiring because it was that good an effort, to be quite honest about it. And he popped out and made all the run. In fact, the last 2 races on Saturday night, there were 2 powerful performances. Really, really impressed with them. Lenson Bacher, that was a classy way to go out. Thankfully, as you said in comedy, the timing. It was nobody begrudged Graham and the connections that win after what happened 15 minutes earlier. So, a nice way to finish up for Lenson Baco.
Yeah, indeed, Barry. I think if Graham had his way, you might have been seeing him down in Cork for the 575 earlier in the year. But I think Graham Box has made the decision that Lenson Baco was to go to stud. And once he did, Graham was all about it. He said, "Yeah, no problem." The other night, he said, "This dog deserves his chance to stud." He says, and of course, he's so well bred. He's Droopy's Jetta and Melody's Diamond herself, who was a star on the track, and Lenson Baco. He's a future stud dog, but on this occasion, it was great to see him have his time in the limelight once again.
Yeah, I think we forget how good he actually has been over the last couple of years. Obviously, look, been a bit unlucky in recent starts, but what he achieved last year was really, really, really good. So look, he's went out on a high, and beating some top class horse in that position. So yeah, great way to bow out on Saturday night.
Yeah, 25 months when he won a Derby. Not too many do that. Lenson Baco, have a great retirement, fella, because I enjoyed watching you every inch of the way. A special place in my heart. It was my first Irish Derby commentary following the pass of my father. And I remember the night thinking, Dad would have loved to have seen this dog winning like he did, because he was a star greyhound. And always sad to say goodbye to dogs like that. We move on. Greyhound Racing Ireland Open 600, a cracking way to finish off proceedings. As you said, Tommy, we needed something to lift us after the shock in the 11th race, and the last 2 races really did provide it. And Ballymac Kingdom was an absolutely powerful winner of the finale. New in session. In fairness to the dog, he missed the kick, and that was probably the key, because if he kicks level with Ballymac Kingdom, he probably builds up just that enough of an advantage. But as it was, Ballymac Kingdom was just that little bit too close. Popped out of boxes, held his position into the corner. New in session got to him, got to the front, went on by a couple of lengths, but no, Ballymac Kingdom was too close. And there's one thing you can be absolutely certain, is that he will get to the second winning line, unlike the cameraman who I warned 3 times before the race. And he turned to me after the race and went, "Oh, I can't believe I did that." And in fairness to him, the lad that was on the camera on Saturday night is the best for all the distances. I just have to tell him, and he does it. And it's just one of those situations where the dogs maybe will say are running too fast from. Anyway, Ballymac Kingdom was the winner, Tommy. It was a great way to finish off a special night's racing.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was a great race to watch as well, and for all that we can see, I know, in fairness to you, you did your best mid commentary the whole lot. It's the second finish in line. You're only short of knocking on the door to him and saying, "Come on."
It has been done.
But in fairness, now look, it didn't take much away from it. Actually, what was the saving grace from that was the fact that Ballymac Kingdom had just hit the front of the first finishing line, so there was no way it was going to finish any other way apart from Ballymac Kingdom in front. So if it had been half length between them at that stage, we might be getting a bit more upset about it, but it didn't really make a whole lot of difference. It was a brilliant performance. You said New in session had to work a little bit harder to get to the front, and the 600 yards just stretched him that little bit too much. He lost nothing in defeat. He didn't do anything wrong. He gave everything. He was positioned to win it if he could just find a little bit extra from halfway. But Ballymac Kingdom was on his tail, almost on his tail at that stage. So I think the writing was on the wall. But 3 more winners for Liam Dowling, 3 for Graham Holland. Pretty standard Saturday night in Shelbourne Park.
I can promise you, this was not a standard Saturday night in Shelbourne Park. Barry, Ballymac Kingdom. I'd say at this stage you were probably like a block of ice standing on the sidelines, but this may have warmed you up a little bit. A great race between 2 great greyhounds.
Yeah, I was walking up and down and up and down and up and down. But just in terms of this race, I thought New in session wouldn't get the trip. Unfortunately, I still couldn't pick the winner. Went for Amazing Champ, but Ballymac Kingdom really pulled out all the stops there in the latter stages. And I think we all knew the writing was on the wall down the far side. I think even in your commentary, you you preferred maybe Ballymac Kingdom that would probably get up. But yeah, look, it was a great way to end the night. Fantastic performances from both the front two. And I'm sure we'll see New in session back to winning form soon. So look, it was the night to remember for sure. So many great performances throughout the night, and it was great to be part of it.
Yeah, I'll be honest now, halfway down the back straight, I still thought New in session might still hold on. If it had been 2 months ago, top of the ground, he might have got there. It was bitterly cold at that stage in the evening. And it just, when you're stepping up to 600 for the first time, it just might take it a little bit of time to adjust. But yeah, New in session, he's a dog that it'd be interesting to see if they go for the open 600 at the end of the year. Perhaps not. They might give him a break. I haven't asked the question yet, but he's only had the 15 career starts. He's won 10 of them. It was the first time he actually finished in the frame, without winning. It was his first second. He'd never been third in his life. So it's just, I'm not saying it's a good sign or a bad sign. It's just one of those things. It's an anomaly. He's been unlucky in his 4 defeats. There's 5 defeats now, but no. Big win by Ballymac Kingdom. He's had a hell of a year for Liam Dowling. And New in session, of course, running a big race in defeat. Lads, from start to finish, a great night. Give you plenty to look forward to in 2021. We won't have to wait too long to see some of these greyhounds in action again. We have the Christmas Oaks coming up in the next short while. We have the Shelbourne Marathon Kingdom Derby, of course, is ongoing. We'll see Great Name that and Ballymac Wild in action in that. And of course, we also have the Open 600. And then we kick off 2021, and you imagine things will be coming thick and fast. Strange times, but at the same time, we've never had it so good in terms of racing. Some real top greyhounds around, Tommy.
Yeah, the best thing about it is we're taking, while we're enjoying all this good racing, we're taking steps toward the end of the pandemic. We're getting there. And before we know it, we'll have a crowd back in Shelbourne Park, for Yaw, wherever else. We'll have them all back on the track soon enough. So look, there could have been many highlights from Saturday night, but there was a great, it wasn't the night of stars, but it might as well have been that, if it wasn't Night of Stars, you would have had the same greyhounds. Of course, you'd love to have a big crowd there and the whole lot, but I mean, those highlights from top to bottom. I love Brodie's Magic winning just because he's a dog I really like, and you might struggle to find the right competitions for him to win, but he's just got such electric pace. Great name that from pure ability. Lenson Bocco, great way to go out. Ballymac Beatty because she's an absolute star. Ballymac Ariel because she's going to be challenging Ballymac Beatty to be the star bitch of next year. So much to talk about. Such a great way to the work that's gone on behind the scenes to make this night, to substitute in for the Night of Stars. I think it was a fabulous success. Just a shame there couldn't be people there, but fair play to everybody behind the scenes and to RPG TV for producing a great program for the night. So yeah, a great night now, to be honest.
Yeah, from an RPG TV standpoint, the likes of a Derby final night and this night are suited to them because it's great racing from start to finish. There's no filler races where you would get in certain tracks or in certain occasions. Shelbourne Park on the big night, big racing from start to finish. Everybody keeps an eye on it. Everybody keeps it into account. And Barry, I suppose you could tell that by the social media on Saturday night that it was people from the length and breadth of Ireland and the UK that were watching.
Yeah, huge following, and they were treated to some fantastic racing on Saturday night. And in fairness, we've been treated to some outstanding racing over the last couple of months since we returned racing, and it's great to see all these big stars in action. They give us so much to talk about, and as you said, Christmas Oaks now coming up, so it's just it's non-stop, it's relentless really, and it's great to see because I think every greyhound has their own story, and great to see a good variety of winners on Saturday night, from the smaller kennels right up to the very big kennels. And congratulations to all the winners on Saturday night.
Yeah, here. Barry, do you want to give us a clue who you're talking to on Thursday?
I haven't decided yet, to be honest. I have 2 in my head. I'm not going to say, but I'm going to be doing the 2 of them over the next 2 Thursdays. So
is one Kelly Brook?
I'll probably just pass the time. No.
Right.
He'll do that one.
Lads, it's been great talking to you. We'll be talking to you again in the very near future. Enjoy the rest of your week. But that's it for Talking Dogs on this Monday afternoon. We'll be back in the next week or two. We won't be talking the likes of Ledger, Laurels, Derby, but we might be talking about all of the above. We have a couple of treats for you coming up in the next few weeks, so stay tuned. But that's it for Talking Dogs on this Monday. We hope you had a great weekend and backed a few winners.